Friends, and thank you for coming back. Um, I think I'd like to do just a quick review to just uh, summarize a few of the key things that I've been trying to express through these videos so that I can uh, continue today from a place that makes sense if you're just tuning in for the first time to this video. Um, so, very briefly, in 2017, as I was running, um, I had just come to the end of my run. I had looked down to my phone for about 2 seconds to turn off my music and my running app, and I looked up and smashed into a stop sign pole. Um, that stop sign pole then led me to a visit with the hospital because I was bleeding and concussed, and that led to a diagnosis of a brain tumor called glioblastoma, um, which was a malignant form of brain cancer, which then led to um, surgery and treatment, including chemotherapy and radiation therapy, and also a looming prognosis that I had um, read about and heard about through the internet and through other people who had heard about this disease from various medical sources. And although the diagnosis was accurate, I chose to um, pursue a different prognosis. So one of the key messages through this video series, again, is to choose to believe the diagnosis if that feels right, but please don't be um, compelled to believe the prognosis. Our knowledge in terms of our scientific worldview is limited in many ways, including that of the medical field. That said, if there is something medically wrong with you, please do not take this as a reason to not consult your various trusted health professionals. God knows that my surgeon, Dr. Jeffrey Hall, who I can't thank enough from the depths of my soul, um, was literally instrumental in helping me maintain my health. And I'm grateful to him forever for that, as well as the rest of the team who helped to um, complement my other forms of healing practice. Um, so that said, I've spent quite a bit of time over these videos talking about the importance and the value of recognizing our inherent, invisible um, nature, our consciousness, which animates and vitalizes our lived experience as human beings. And I've spoken quite a bit about the value of not only recognizing the existence of that part of our being, um, but of actively tapping into it as a source of healing. Um, our ability to recognize um, what is invisible as visible, and using our imagination as a tool um, to allow us to navigate that region of our being, and so call up imagery and tools so that we can participate in our biological transformation. I've spoken a lot about how current science is not only validating what ancient cultures and wisdom traditions throughout the world have known for eons, but are actually demonstrating the accuracy through our current technology. So we know that when we think about certain things, we activate certain regions of our brain. Um, we know now that if we send certain thoughts, um, which have long been simply called prayer, if we send our thought, if we direct our mind to observe physical phenomena, then we can affect the outcome of that. I won't go into it again here in this video, but um, you can look back at some other videos for some examples of that. One of the easiest ones to recall is if one sends positive thoughts to the molecules in water, um, our positive thoughts of love or care or joy have an effect on the actual molecular structure and the forms, the crystalline forms that the water molecules take on, versus negative thoughts such as anger, um, sadness, resentment, which cause um, unharmonious, asymmetrical, jagged forms to exist within the molecules of water. And the point of that is to say that since we ourselves are not only composed of water, but of other material entities, our thoughts have direct effect on how we become, and that we can choose to participate in the upregulation or downregulation of our genes, and that we have some measure of control over our environment. Okay. So what I wanted to talk about today was how the complement to my own daily practice of engaging that inner dimension of my being in my own practice of healing took on form in my day-to-day life. So though I started my day and continued to start my day with meditation and readings which illuminate for me, remind me of this dimension of our being, whether you call it our soul, our consciousness, our divine essence. It doesn't matter what words we use for it, or what religion or no religion we use to navigate this plane of our being. All of these words and religions and traditions point to the one thing, the fact that the thing that is undeniable is that we exist. And when we can begin to drop the masks of our personalities, those things which we think identify us, in other words, our name, our job, our gender, our appearance, any titles that we give to ourselves, if we can drop those mirrors one by one, what is left is an infinite source of beingness that allows us to navigate our lives in the world. Okay. So as I continued to foray into the intention to heal, I began to course correct everything in my life that I thought was an affront to the grain of my soul. I'll explain that quickly. By now you know that when I say quickly, I mean not quickly at all, but bear with me. I had said at the very beginning of the video series that one of the things that the stop sign forced me to realize was that I had been making certain decisions, not big decisions, or that one would call big decisions, but many minor decisions in my life that I knew were going against the grain of my soul. I would think things or do things that one might consider small things in the world, but that this little voice inside of me said, no, don't do that. That's not right. And for so long, I didn't listen to that voice, and I'm utterly convinced that not listening to my soul had an impact on my body telling me that I had to begin to listen, um, or pay the consequences. And I think that, no, I know that the brain tumor was a result of my energy being in disharmony with the essence of my being. I was not listening to my deeper voice all the time, and my body said, pay attention. So what happened was, as I continued my journey after 2017 of healing, I was so determined to do everything right. So, for example, I would be in traffic, and if I had the reaction of honking at somebody in traffic because I thought they were going too slowly, I would immediately catch myself and remember that that wasn't how I wanted to live anymore, and remember that the person in front of me who was driving slowly probably had a very good reason to drive slowly. They were either being cautious about their own driving, that was just how they felt comfortable driving, um, and certainly they also wanted to get to where they wanted to get to, and um, my own frustration had nothing to do with them. And so what I would do is send them apology through my heart. I would intentionally send them an I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And imagine that my higher self was reaching out to their invisible higher self and asking for them to receive my apology. And once I felt that happened, that there was a reception of my intention, I could move on. The same thing would happen if I was in line at the grocery store and I felt that the line was moving too slowly, or the person at the cashier was taking their old sweet time, taking their things out of the basket, and my God, it was taking so long. I could feel the frustration rising up in me and the judgment, and then eventually catch myself and say, no, I don't need to be that way, and send a message of asking for forgiveness to them, or just sending love to them and asking their own higher self to meet me in peace. And I know this must sound totally nuts to so many people listening out there, but I hope you'll at least be open to considering what I'm talking about, and that it might give you some, well, whether it helps or not, I'm just going to share it with you anyway. You can do with it what you want or nothing at all. How's that? How's that for fair? And so this would happen on a daily basis. And it would even extend to the point where I would be walking through a crowd, in the grocery store, outdoors, anywhere really. And I felt compelled to send as much love out to everyone in my environment that I could. So I would look at the people walking by me, around me, and I would have the intention to send love out to them. And now it may sound like that was a very beautiful act, and in a way, it was. And I'll tell you what the but is in a moment, but I'll say that it even came to a point where if I was driving the car and I would pass by somebody, or if I was walking and I would pass by somebody who was homeless or looked very destitute, a part of me would become so uh, affected by their situation that I would literally burst into tears and send as much love as I could to them. Now, again, this may sound like a generous, gracious thing to do, um, but, and this is the but, what I realized was, now coming back to the superhero metaphors that I was using in the last video, what happened was that I was overextending myself. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. First, let me just inject a little bit of humor here. I talked so much last time about superheroes and my love of all that they represent, and I think that our superheroes, just like the heroes in our mythologies, all point to a dimension of ourselves that we know exists, a deeper power that we all can harness and utilize for the good of our own being and for the good of others in the world. Which is partly why I'm wearing a sweater today that sort of reminds me of Spider-Man. It's kind of like my little superhero sweater. I have several of them. If you consider the superheroes, and if you know anything about Superman, you may recall that at various moments in his action, being Superman, where he was trying to fight off an enemy or attack some evil force, he might use his laser eyes to shoot his heat vision toward that object that he was trying to dissolve or destroy, that evil. And there came a point where he would continue to focus his laser vision so intensely that the veins around his eyes began to get red. Soon his face would begin to become full of these red veins, almost glowing with fire. And it became clear to us watching that he was burning himself out. And sure enough, if he didn't stop what he was doing, then he would become empty and his power would be gone, and he would fall to earth if he was floating in the sky using his laser vision. I'm also reminded of, talking about mythology, I'm also reminded of a wonderful fiction novel series called The Wheel of Time. And in this series, there are a group of people called Aes Sedai who have the ability to tap into what they call the one power. And the one power for me is a metaphor for this inner dimension that I've been talking about all along. And what they can do when they tap into this one power is literally channel it through them and then turn it into a real force in the physical world, which is not unlike what I've been talking about with regard to our own abilities as human beings, tapping into our own consciousness as a power source. But what would happen is if one of these Aes Sedai tapped into this one power and channeled it, as they call it, toward an object or toward trying to protect themselves or create something or destroy something, if they let it become channeled through them so that they didn't recognize when they needed to reel it in, they eventually lost the ability to to cut themselves off from it, and it would, to use the language of the novels, it would burn them out and they would lose access to their power. So I say this because in my own attempts to be right, to be good, to be in harmony, to be a loving being, in other words, to course correct all of my actions and everything I did as I walked through the world, I ended up, as I was later to learn, I ended up giving away all of my energy. And I didn't know that at the time. I'll explain to you soon how I discovered that what I was doing, in fact, needed to be modified. But for now, what I want to focus on was that in my attempt to course correct my life, which was the right thing to do, there was something that I forgot was fundamental, and that was that I wasn't able to actually give of myself and my love in the world if I wasn't first filling my own cup. And as we know, one can't pour from a cup that is empty. Now, of course, I'm jumping ahead of what I actually knew at the time, but the reason I can sit here today in 2025 and talk about how important it was for me to learn that lesson was because after 5 years, after 5 years of my initial diagnosis in 2017, where I was cancer-free and healthy and living my life, doing everything that I could do for everyone else because I thought it was the right thing to do, I was diagnosed with a recurrence in 2022 in exactly the same place where I had had the original tumor. And that led me on a new mission to understand what was going on when I thought I was doing everything right. And I'm going to stop here in a moment. But when I continue the next video, I'm going to try to explain how understanding that I needed to protect my own energy was fundamental if I was to truly heal. Part of that was learning the distinction between living out of fear and living out of joy. And it all began with recognizing the love that I had to give to myself. So that will be the point that I'll leave off on. I hope you'll come back and join me next time. And sending love to all and blessings. Thanks. See you again.